Hello, and welcome back to the Commerce Collective podcast. You're listening to the second episode in our Big Shift series. In our first Big Shift episode, Mike Feldman unpacked the operational cost of fragmentation, disconnected teams, disconnected KPIs, and disconnected planning. But fragmentation does not only show up inside the business, it also shows up in the brand story that consumers experience. In this episode, Phil Camarota, Flywheel's Chief Creative Officer, looks at fragmentation through the lens of creative commerce. What happens when a brand's message breaks across touchpoints, and what it takes to connect the story across digital, physical, media, and the shelf. Let's get into it. Phil, welcome to the show. Can you do us the pleasure of introducing yourself and a little bit about your role?
Absolutely. Thank you, Emma, for having me. My name is Phil Camarota. I am the Chief Creative Officer here at Flywheel. And my job and mission in life is really helping brands kind of stand out and sell out in the complex world of commerce. What that really means is we use creativity to solve shopper problems and improve commercial results.
And right off the bat, I'm going to ask you to expand on what you mean by using creativity.
It's really about, I think, identifying a human insight and a human need, and then using creativity to connect with people, right? And address those problems. A lot of what we do is reframing a brand or a product in a new and different way, potentially creatively, to maybe highlight a solution or get people to consider a product in a way that they hadn't before. And we do that in a way that builds the brands of our clients, but also builds the brands of retailers. So whether it be Walmart, whether it be Amazon, we try and find that kind of brand unity and create ideas and communications that, do that for both entities.
And then my follow-up question to that is does that lean kind of what people would think of traditionally as like shopper marketing? Is it more expansive than that? What does that kind of mean?
I think shopper marketing is without a doubt what people most, when you think about what I do and what creative commerce is, I think shopper marketing is the first thing that comes to mind. But I think now, part of a larger company within Flywheel, we're really connecting those dots to open the aperture on what it really means.
All right, so we talked with Mike all about what fragmentation means to him and how it shows up within commerce. From your perspective, where does fragmentation kind of show up the most visibly, both for brands and in the consumer experience, and how do you define it?
So I obviously have a creative perspective, but for me, I define fragmentation really as the breakdown in the brand narrative from touchpoint to touchpoint, right? When you see it kind of fall apart bit by bit. And I think that then manifests itself as a breakdown in the business, right? Where you see leakage kind of falling down between those touchpoints, I think is usually a direct correlation to that narrative breaking down itself.
And in terms of key messaging breaking down what consumers are seeing, is the answer then for all of your messaging to be the same, or is consistency the answer? Is that too repetitive? How do you think about that?
Yes, I do think right now consistency seems to be the easiest solution for most brands. I feel like almost to their detriment in some ways. When you think about a story, I think you think about chapters, right?
Yeah.
And each chapter kind of builds on the last. And if every chapter simply repeated itself, you would probably stop reading that book, right? So I think our challenge is to continue to kind of build on the story, deepen that story, but not necessarily repeat it at all costs. I think people will then become disinterested, and that's a very quick way to kind of lose attention. So how can we use each touch point to deepen the story rather than just tell the same part over and over?
And why is it difficult for brands to build a cohesive story? Why do they need a partner like Flywheel to help with this?
I think it's because they often work with people and agencies that are they themselves fragmented. Right? They are in charge of different parts of the story. They are in charge of different touch points. And if they're not truly working together, then just naturally that story is going to break down.
Back to the idea of creative messaging and keeping things consistent, but not just repeating everything over and over again. Do you have advice for brands for how to, take the assets that they've made from a campaign, but maybe recycle, reuse, reinvent them across different channels because consumers are shopping across every channel under the sun.
Yeah, I mean, this is the benefit of digital now, right? That we're talking about, where you don't have to just shoot in the dark when it comes to messaging. We have the ability to be very nimble and to test different messages to different audiences and kind of see what works best. So what I would encourage everyone to do is embrace, that ability and that power. Obviously go in with a plan about how we might want to initially connect with different audiences, but try different things. Don't get locked into one thing, and let's let the audience tell us, what they are attracted to and what resonates with them. I think as marketers, sometimes we just fall into that kind of expert trap where, we think we kind of know it all. But I think audiences will surprise you sometimes with what they connect with. So allow them to kind of help shape that ultimate narrative. And then we can kind of share insights across channels and evolve messaging, as we need.
Slight pivot, but because you just came back from Cannes where you were a jury on the panel like that. Whoa, that's career highlight probably.
Yes, absolutely.
Did you see any brands out there that you would really say like these campaigns that did a really good job of kind of not having a fragmented creative experience and doing exactly what you just said? Any like highlights?
What I would say is within the categories at Cannes, they're very focused, right? So I was the president of the creative commerce jury, but within creative commerce, there are so many different subcategories that people enter their work into. So I think what you naturally get is very focused campaigns where people are doing like one aspect of the consumer journey. So there's social commerce, there's entertainment commerce. So they are naturally focused. There is, ironically enough, a category within called end-to-end commerce. And in total transparency and honesty, there were not many submissions in that category because I don't think that we really have someone who we can hold on high and point to having all of the answers. Hopefully we're helping to get our clients there, but this is still a very new thing for a lot of brands out there.
One reason that end-to-end commerce is so hard is that the consumer journey now moves across a wider set of environments. Some moments happen in digital channels, some happen in media, and many still happen in stores. So while a lot of the conversation has focused on commerce becoming more digital, physical retail still plays a critical role. The question isn't how to make stores and digital channels identical, but how to make them work together. So what role does the store play today?
You mentioned before, consistency at all costs, right? Is that what we're chasing? And I do think people kind of fall into that trap a little bit where even now, I think some brands believe that creating a seamless experience between physical and digital is the right way to go, where I would argue that it's not about one experience, it's about complementary experiences. Why I think that is important is because digital and physical are better at different things, right? Digital might be better at curation and memory and personalization, and physical might be better at things like assurance and immersion and relationship building. And the brands that I admire that I'm seeing, I think, set a great example for other brands are the ones that orchestrate and kind of choreograph the physical and digital experiences, right? They're not trying to standardize them. They're playing to each channel's strengths. I think like beauty and lifestyle brands do like a really great job at this. And the store is often the place where they're focused on like community building and member experiences. And they really deepen that sense of belonging in a way that I think is just, better than what digital provides at this moment.
Do you have any examples? You don't have to name the brand, but like an example of that really coming to life. Like what was the experience digital to physical?
The best example that I can think of is in the kind of outdoor apparel space. And, digital is very much focused on, like the product availability, assortment, and personalization. But in-store is where they really bring the brand to life for for their shoppers. And they're a brand that is known for quality and dependability, in the outdoors, in extreme conditions. And they talk a lot about the kind of lifetime, guarantee of their products. And what they've done in stores, they've created repair stations where you can actually bring in your gear if it ever does fail for any reason, and you can get it repaired, right there on the spot. Again, that's something that just can't happen digitally. You could absolutely pack your stuff up in a box and print a label and get it sent off. But the ability to just bring it in, connect with a human being right there, probably asking you, how do you use this equipment? What exactly happened? And to have that expertise in front of you be able to, use their craftsmanship to breathe new life into that product is such a unique opportunity that only physical provides.
We're about to talk about AI, which might feel like a pivot, but it connects directly to this conversation. If brands are already trying to adapt creative across more channels, AI changes both the speed and the possibilities of that work. So I asked Phil how he thinks about the tension between AI, creative, and commerce.
I'm definitely on the side of people that are very positive on AI. I see a lot of the benefits. I understand that there are drawbacks and concerns, but for me, I just see it as a huge opportunity. It's the most powerful tool I think that we've ever been given that allows us to accomplish things that we've never been able to do before. And I think one great example is just the speed and quality that it affords us, especially from a commerce perspective, right? Where timelines have always been a huge issue in what we were able to accomplish. Like the lead times for commerce specifically were always so far out. You're working 12 months, 18 months. And now we can turn things around so much faster that it has made something like real-time commerce an actual thing that we can do now, right? We were never on the table for, never a consideration. And now you're seeing brands execute real-time commerce all the time.
At this point, we've talked about creative, stores, digital channels, and AI, and the teams behind all of that work. So the natural next question is, how do brands actually bring all of that together? That is where total commerce comes in, an approach designed to connect the work around how consumers actually shop rather than around the traditional swim lanes. But what does total commerce mean in practice?
What Flywheel's total commerce approach is, and what it does is, I think it takes a holistic view of both the challenges and potential solutions for a brand and charts the best path forward, right? Regardless of traditional swim lanes that may have existed, what we can do is orchestrate resources, budgets, and talent in the appropriate places to make our work more efficient and more effective. Because what matters to us is our clients' success, and we know that if our clients succeed, then we will succeed as well.
My very last question for you, hopefully a slightly easier question, is what is one very practical step that brands can take, in your opinion, to start mastering fragmentation versus just managing it? One step.
One step. So this is one of my hot buttons and one of kind of my favorite things to get on my soapbox about. My advice would be to audit your IATs. And the reason why I say that is because I think a lot of marketers feel like the IAT is the entity that is supposed to address fragmentation. But I think in reality, an integrated agency team often isn't a team. It's often a hierarchy of agencies. And what inadvertently happens is you have one lead agency that kind of leads from the top down and everybody else follows. And I think clients sometimes mistake the IAT interacting for collaboration. And those are two very different things. Collaboration is truly a give and take where multiple perspectives are heard and then people arrive on the best path forward. And I want to see more collaboration, true collaboration within IATs. And I think clients might be shocked by, getting in there and seeing how the different agencies are actually working together. because that is where so much fragmentation takes place, right? If you're only getting kind of one main perspective the entire time, that is going to increase fragmentation, not actually solve it. So I think it's kind of like a hidden challenge within IATs themselves.
And with that, we have made it to the end of this episode. To recap, fragmentation doesn't just live in org charts, budgets, or dashboards. It shows up in the story that consumers experience with your brand. When creative, retail, media, commerce, and store teams are not connected, the brand narrative can break between touchpoints. For more on this shift, read Flywheel's latest white paper, The Big Shift, From Managing to Mastering Fragmentation, linked in the episode description. Thank you to Phil for his thoughts, and we will see you next time.